We'll start the, good evening, everyone. This is the Community Preservation Committee meeting for December 17th, 2025. We have a quorum. All attendees right now are in the room. We have a fairly short agenda tonight, so we may be out early. And first on the agenda is administrative news, mail and minutes. I don't have any news. There was no new coalition news from the last month. We do have some minutes. I just had a couple things on the second page. Projects in the pipeline. We had an agenda item for budgets, and I think like A should be under that instead. Yeah. Because I think we talked about some budget items, and that's what we. So I don't know if we can put another bullet point in there with, and just put it, well, another heading actually would be heading number 4, which would be, budget discussion. And then the second one, number B, the Baptist church was mentioned. I didn't know if we could flesh that out a bit. I was looking at the AI minutes and we had an informal discussion. Maybe just one of the points brought up, the church representative is interested in learning about nonprofit partners and examples of adaptive reuse. Maybe we could just add something like that.
It's perfect.
Yeah, there's the last thing, no formal CPC application yet, but may come forward in the future. Just so we know what we talked about when the Baptist church was mentioned.
So is this under budget discussion?
Well, no, the Baptist church would be projects in the pipeline, but fiscal table and graphs, and maybe we could say something. I think it just says, the chair produced graphs, total project costs and breakout by category. If we could put. Yes. Unless we can just pull in this AI version of it talks about the balances in the buckets, fund balance. I don't know if we want to redo them for next time or. There's some good edits.
I have projects in the pipeline, A, fiscal table and graphs, and then another bullet, chair produced graphs that were shared showing balances in each bucket and overall budget.
Okay.
And then the Baptist church was mentioned as, what should I add to that?
If we put an informal discussion regarding the property which will be for sale. Even if we just say no formal application yet, but something may go forward in the future.
Baptist church was mentioned by informal discussion of property which may be for sale.
Yeah.
Open process, no formal application at present.
Yes. Any other additions?
I make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
We have a motion to approve as amended and second. We can just do it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Thank you. Member updates, does anyone have anything they want to bring forth?
Only thing I could say is that I went to a meeting with the town administrator and a bunch of other people to talk about the Tuttle House, which the bowling companies want to move, and they Jim said that he invited the housing trust to be at the meeting because he wanted to pawn the building off on us. Which is a consideration that we're thinking about. But that's where it stands. It's just, it was a suggestion and I walked around the building and nothing else has happened.
I heard that in January, you're supposed to have a site visit.
Yeah, we're gonna get to walk through the building. And,
Historical commission is doing.
We're gonna go with that, yeah.
we're gonna look at it to see if it could possibly be turned into affordable housing. And I have my doubts.
What's the name of the building?
Tuttle House, TTLE.
You can also get a haircut while you're there.
Are you implying that I need one?
No, maybe by then you'll need it.
So to add on to follow up on what Bartlett was saying, at that meeting of the different boards, it was suggested that the historical commission present our position possibly before the other boards come to a decision so they could see what the historical commission position was, and we voted on it subsequently to that meeting at the commission's last meeting, and I've let all the board people who were there know that the historical commission deemed the title has to be of historical significance, and that that the historical significance is best preserved on site, on the current site. And then we gave some recommendations. If they want to move it off site, they should consider, or they should have certain things in place before they consider moving it.
This is the one right across from CVS, correct?
Yes, which has already been moved.
That should be my comment.
Yeah.
Well, it was moved on site, but yeah.
Well, and then in the 550 King process is accelerating. They want to start in the spring in the first phase of retail, which would not affect Tuttle House, but it's coming up. And in a, at the meeting, after the meeting, I talked with the development lead, Morgan Pearson. I said, my actual feeling was the Tuttle House should not be at site. And there's a letter, he hadn't seen it, but he immediately started thinking about, well, where could we put it, and this and that. So I don't think that's going to be, there's a lot of, they bought the property behind the gas station behind Archer's, there's a house and then, some retail. And he sort of put his, well, what about there? That would be perfect,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Adjacent to the common and, so we'll see. They're, they're involved in, this other, the first phase, which is pretty complicated. So
Be a lot cheaper for him too, I would think.
I really don't think we need to worry. I shouldn't say that in a public meeting, but, like, I can't imagine using CPC funds. That should be a developer obligation.
Great. Okay, interesting. See what happens with that then. But probably nothing till the first of the year anyways.
Yeah,
After.
and if it becomes affordable housing, then it's gonna be our, the housing trust, CPC funds, that one.
Anything else from anyone? member up. Who did that, public input, we have no public, Dave is here, Dave Barr is here for the next item, the Clean Lakes Committee application, which we've received. Are you waiting for anyone else to come, or?
John's coming, but give him a hand.
Okay, and I think we've heard a lot of the background, so I think we might be able to skip right to the real section of what you're asking for. We kind of talked last meeting about the eligibility, and we agreed that the meeting, was eligible, but we didn't formally vote on it, which we can. We have the eligibility request in front of us. So why don't we do that first? Based on the discussion of last meeting. Anybody wanna?
I hope that we declare the assessment of options to improve the effectiveness of Forge Pond drawdowns be declared an eligible project for CPC funds.
I second that.
All right, we have, first by Bartlett, second by Linda, all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, so Dave, if you'd like to maybe, like I said, start maybe like on the.
Yeah, so we kind of went over the background, the issues with the lake right now. There are a handful of ways that we've been working to fight the eutrophication that is exemplified by the high plant growth in the lake. Harvesting, drawdowns, benthic mats, herbicides. We've been working on all those. The drawdowns have been used for the longest time in the recent past, the last 12, 13 years or so, performed by Clean Lakes Committee and Friends of Forge Pond. And generally speaking, they've been moderately successful. But there are a few things that are limitations on that success. And so basically three main ones, right? One is that we're allowed to go down to just below 200 feet of elevation. But we never get down there. The closest we've gotten is half a foot away. The average for the last 5 years has been, hey John, back to you.
That's fine, John.
We just started, has been 2 feet higher. That's been the average level. And so if we could lower there's a graph in there that shows the different depths as a function of the area of the lake. And if we could lower the average down to our limit, we could increase the additional drawdown, the lake bed that's affected by 10% of the lake's area for each foot that we go down. So if we were able to lower it 2 feet to get down to the average, down to the allowed minimum, that could open up 20% more of the plant area to be affected by the drawdown. The second issue is that the lake fluctuates a lot during the winter. That's more of an issue as the winters get warmer, which it's been for 2 of the last 3 winters. With the warmer weather, the ice doesn't form on the lake as much. The 2 winters we had hardly any ice on the lake. Last winter was better, but the winters are getting warmer. So the ice doesn't form. With the warmer weather, precipitation will have to be rain, which flows right into the lake rather than sitting on the ice and sitting on the surrounding area as snow until the spring. And so when we have precipitation, it goes right into the lake, and the lake rises quickly. And the limitations of the flow, the outflow capacity, mean that it goes up fast and it goes down slow. So that contributes to the higher average elevation of the level. It also often means that when we do have cold weather, which is what it takes to kill the exposed plants, the plants aren't exposed. The water's up when it's apt to be up when the weather's cold. So that's another reason why it's they're not as effective. And the third reason is that again, like I said, our drawdown limit is just below 200. That was put in place to protect the endangered wildlife in Beaverbrook wetlands upstream of the lake. But in 2023, the where the Beaverbrook comes into the lake at Beaverbrook Road, the culvert's replaced by a bridge, and the lake bottom below the bridge is at 200 feet. So even at this point, even if excuse me, the lake were lowered below that, the wetlands upstream of the lake wouldn't be lowered below that. It's like a little dam at 200 feet. So it would actually be higher because it needs to be higher for the water to come through. So if we were able to have better outflow that could allow for lower lake levels, we could go back to the state and see if we could get approval for a lower limit on the target, which again would improve the productivity because a larger area would be affected. So all those things are kind of contingent on being able to have overcoming those things is contingent on being able to have more outflow from the lake. And the application explains what the different structures are at the outflow. I won't go into it much, except to say that there's about a 900-foot channel between the lake and Abbott Mill Dam. There's a sluice way that goes around the dam, and there's a auxiliary spillway that goes from the sluiceway into Stony Brook, which is the stream that flows downstream from the dam. And to affect the drawdown, we remove stop logs from the opening of that auxiliary spillway. There are 8.5 feet of stop logs, and when we remove them, that lowers the lake level to the point where it's not going over the dam anymore. It's just going through the auxiliary spillway, and the lower opening for the spillway allows the lake to come down. So that's our outflow during the drawdown is also sort of a choke point for the outflow. So what we're proposing is to do some computer assessment of the flows involved at the outlet, or a couple of different possible configurations at the outlet, to see, could changes there, what kind of effect could changes there have in terms of the flow capacity leaving the lake during the drawdown. And then the second part of the study would be, again, computer assessment, computer modeling of the overall drawdown cycle, with looking at these possible changes in the outlet structures and using historical data for 1 year to model the flow for the drawdown and modifying that historical data in some ways to also model wetter winters and drier winters to see what kind of effect those would have too. The options that we're looking at to improve the flow out of the lake are three. One is looking at the inlet to the existing auxiliary spillway and lowering the opening and making it rectangular rather than round, which would give us more area, and seeing what would the effect be if we lowered that just without changing anything else. The second option would be to put in an additional outlet structure next to that current one. Obviously, that would increase the flow, but to what extent and how much would it help? And clearly, that would be more expensive than the first option, but it would be interesting to see how much improvement would we get. Would it be worth the extra expense? The third option we're looking at is what effect would we have if we lowered the stream bed of the outlet channel between the lake and the dam. We did do a little bit of dredging there a few years ago, 2022. We got approval to do that, but we only lowered it by a little bit less than a foot down to about a foot below our target level. If we were to lower it more, how much would that reduce the choking of the outflow and improve the effectiveness of the drawdowns? All of these different possibilities obviously would need to be, if they were shown to be effective and maybe cost effective, would need to be have wider discussion and approval, and we'd need to be looking for funding. I would think that possibly some grants might be available to do that kind of thing. But so clearly, if we decide that some of these look useful, there would need to be a lot more follow-on, both in terms of getting support and getting approvals and getting funding. But this would be the first step, is to see to what extent would these actually be useful. So I don't know whether you want me to go over the other sections of the in terms of how this matches CPC goals and timeline, budget sort of things.
Yeah, I think the timeline and, the goals, I think, but the timeline and budget and how you come to the 40,000 and.
Yeah, okay. So if this got approved by you and then by town meeting, that would be late spring. So we would plan to start the work in early summer and work with the contractor through the summer and into the early fall. That should be plenty of time to do this. We would collaborate together on whether just exactly what the specs were. We worked with them last year and got an agreement on the specs and the cost at that time. We did pare something back to reach that cost. We might be interested in putting some of those back in. But yeah, we'd expect that from early summer until early fall, mid-fall would be the time frame for doing this. they have the computer models available. They need to modify them. We need to collaborate on the data sets. And then once we've done that, it's, running through the models, which is not a time consuming thing, but then we'd have some time to evaluate them together and come to some conclusions.
And is that all part of the $40,000 or is that, okay,
Yeah. How we came up with the budget, like I said, we had started this project, we had funding for it, for FY 25, from the water department and Friends of Forge Pond. There were some concerns about, the, scheduling, in the end, which, meant that it didn't take place, last summer. We were working with a contractor that had provided these kinds of services to evaluate, use these kinds of models to evaluate flows in the outlet channel, which provided the basis for the dredging that we did in 2022. So they already have the models, they've already worked with us, they have experience working in this area. So making some changes was, it was cost effective, pretty cost effective for them to be picking up and doing the work. We had an agreement with them, we'd worked through the statement of work and specifications. And at that time, we had an agreement to do the work for 30,000. So we're asking for 40,000, but we expect it'll cost more just due to inflation. Like I said, we might want to put in some of the extra things that we took out to scale it back for 30,000. If it turns out it doesn't cost 40,000, obviously we wouldn't spend that much. And last year, the funding was matched between Water Department and Friends of Forge Pond. When we talked about sort of these things last summer, the committee suggested that rather than Friends of Forge Pond matching it, it would be useful in a number of ways for Westford CPC to, if we could get funding from them, that would be useful both in terms of awareness and socializing what we're doing, making Westford aware of what we're thinking of down the road before we get to the point where we say, hey, here's something we'd like to do. And also, get funding, share the funding with them. We went to their needs assessment meeting last month, and they invited us to bring it back as an application next month. So we're doing that.
What happens if Westford CPC doesn't fund it?
it doesn't
We
work.
may get funding from Friends of First Pond.
Hmm.
So I mean, that was kind of the original expectation, but we agreed that your suggestion that there are a number of benefits to having Westford funded. So that's what we're looking to do. So that was how we came up with the amount, and that was the matching, or we got matching. We're looking for half the funding from you, and we would get matching from hopefully Westford CPC for the other. And we have a few paragraphs about community support in the application. The efforts that we're doing to preserve the lakes have a lot of support in the town, as evidenced by a special session called by the town manager August 24. Rob Rounce was instrumental in helping to get that organized, but you can see there were like 8 or 10 town groups that participated, including CPC. And there was agreement that, this was something that was important to the town and we needed to find ways to fund it. Like I said, the Westford also is, because the lake is in both Littleton and Westford. Westford has also been supportive. Much of historically, Westford Health Lakes and Ponds Collaborative, which is sister organization for Littleton Clean Lakes Committee, has funded a number of the mitigation activities on the lake. And like I said, we're hoping to get funding from their CPC. And both Littleton and Westford Conservation Commissions are aware and approving of all of these mitigation efforts. All the different mitigation efforts I mentioned, including the drawdowns, have permits from both conservation commissions. So the main thing we're doing, we're fighting the growth, the explosion of these invasive plants. But the bottom line of what we're really trying to do is fight this accelerating eutrophication of the lakes. An example of accelerated eutrophication is what happened to Mill Pond. Where we went from a 12-feet lake, nice clean lake, to a 3 feet, very choked lake, which in just a matter of decades. And lakes are unique. They're we want to, they're cherished. Once they're gone, you can't replace them. If conservation land gets overrun or whatever, there's more land that can be used, or it can be that land can be restored. Once a lake is gone, there's really nothing you can do. So we're trying to preserve these lakes, which is I think part of your mandate.
And when the final report is prepared, who takes ownership of that? Like, who's gonna look at these models and decide and do the drawdown? Is that Clean Lakes function? Is that the water department function, conservation, or?
Anybody that's interested, certainly Clean Lakes Committee, Friends of Forge Pond, and potentially Westford Health Lakes and Ponds Collaborative would look at the results and see to what extent are these different options improving the success of the drawdowns, or would they? And looking at that compared to the cost of them and seeing which things, presumably we start with one, maybe there'll only be one in the end, right? To see which one we would pursue, and then we would be looking at what are the next steps to do that, socializing it, getting buy-in, getting permitting, getting funding.
So who's in charge of the drawdown now? Is there like?
Clean Lakes Committee is formally in charge of it. Functionally, the Friends of Forge Pond implements it. Actually, and for the last 12 years, Friends of Forge Pond has physically done the work. The mill was sold a year and a half ago, and this year the new owners asked that their personnel are physically doing the work. So whenever we have something needs to be done, we contact them, we say, here's what we need to do, and we arrange, we meet together, and we say, here, and they go, But Friends of Forge Pond and Clean Lakes Committee are doing the drawdowns.
So, so the report would be like scientist-y kind of people that would tell you three options. Are they gonna give you advice or?
So, the group that, we've been working with, are Environmental Engineering, it's an environmental engineering firm. So they, have these, hydrologic and hydraulics modeling programs available, but that's kind of a corner of what they do. They work generally in environmental engineering and lake management, that kind of thing. So yes, they would be working with us to assess which of these things would be most useful. Yeah. So, and that was the last phase was, we would meet together with them before the report is finalized to, discuss it and agree on kind of what we think, what all agree together on what makes sense to have in the report and recommendations.
Anyone else have a question?
You mentioned permitting, is it the state only that issues the permit, or do the towns also?
So all of these things fall under the Wetland Protection Act. And which is a federal act, and the state has their own laws related to it. And the state asks the town conservation commissions to be the ones to enforce it, to regulate it, to manage projects in the town that are affected by the Wetlands Protection Act. So the permits are actually issued by the town conservation commissions when a project is proposed, and notice of intent is provided to both the Conservation Commission and the Mass Department of Environmental Protection. The DEP provides a case number for the project and provides their input to the Conservation Commission on anything that they think, they should be taking into account. In some cases, if there's endangered species involved, then there's another state agency that needs to get involved and needs to provide their feedback, their input also. It's the town conservation commissions are issuing the permits, but they're getting advice and review and agreement from Mass DEP. And they're implementing Mass DEP laws, and towns have the ability to create their own layer on top of the Wetlands Protection Act, which can be like more stringent, not less stringent. And so the town is managing that. And for Forge Pond, we have to get two sets of permits for everything we do, one from the Littleton Conservation Commission and one from Westford Conservation Commission.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
I just have a matter of vocabulary. You mentioned stop log at the sluice. What's a stop log?
That's the term they use. It's a board. So the auxiliary control structure has has a frame, an opening with straight vertical sides that has slots in each side, and there are aluminum boards, 1 foot high, 2 inches thick, that and 4 feet wide, that slide down into these slots, and there are 8 of them. And when they're all in there, nothing much flows through that, and then we take them out one at a time from the top to lower the threshold, for the water to go through. So they're aluminum, basically aluminum planks.
Okay.
You know,
Thanks.
I think, you know, 200 years ago, they had actual logs that they were putting on top of the dams and to stop the water, so, but they're not logs anymore.
What's the likelihood that the money spent now will become the first step in the physical construction? Like a flip way of the reverse way of answering that is are you confident that you won't be back for more design funding?
Oh, I mean, this would be the first step to see what if any of these options is effective, right? If they are effective, then, we were pursuing one of these projects, you would have, planning and then you'd have construction. So yeah, those would be two different phases. To the extent that we could, I would look to see if we could get state grants for both of those. If we can't, get state grants for the planning, then we might come back for, funding for design work. I don't see us coming back for funding for construction, although I suppose it's possible. I mean, I think it would be, that's the kind of thing that I assume, you know, state grants would be,
Right.
likely to cover, but I don't know, maybe you have more information. I mean, I guess there's a chance that we could come back for either or both of those.
So
But-
it's probably not design money. Mostly it's planning and feasibility, so to speak, or
No, I think it would be, design work, that would be, I mean, I see this as the feasibility, you know, I mean, this would show us what would be effective, right? Whether it's feasible or not would be kind of more of a socialization issue, right? Not something that would cost money, right? It would mainly be, if it's feasible, it would mainly a question of could we get funding for it? So I think the next funding step would be design work, and then that would, and I don't know whether we would need to get commitments for construction funding before it would make sense to do the design work, right? But I don't know how practical that is. We'd have to see.
But did you have something else? I'm sorry. Jeff, Sam?
I think I understand what they're looking for.
I do also, it's really, are you using this same application for Westford?
Mostly,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's excellent, thorough and very well
Very
done.
good.
And I, Bartley asked about stop logs. I'm gonna say I enjoyed encountering hypsographic curve, which I've never heard of before. Like the general concept. Anyway, so I understand, but I do, you know, with Mid's comments, you know, to go for, you need this to go forward with anything.
Right,
And at that process of going forward, man, you know, good luck. I mean, you talk about socialization, you're essentially saying, making people aware, trying to get their support.
right.
This could be any number of organizations or, you know, governmental things.
Right.
So anyway,
Yeah.
and you need this to go forward with that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a, you know, a one-year thing right? It's
Yeah.
be an effort, it would be a process. But you know, if we don't pursue these kinds of things, then, you know, we're gonna end up with lakes like Mill Pond.
John, Rob, do you have anything to add to that?
Just to supplement what David's already contributed, we appreciate you hearing this. The amount of effort that goes into coordinating between the two towns to move forward on anything on Manawanaki is just a mammoth undertaking. And David's right there on the front lines all the time. And the appeal to you, the appeal to Westford, the appeal to concerned parties, of which there are many, is something that I just think is a testament to their desire to have things as good as they can get them there. The drawdown alone is probably the most cost-effective approach to managing the invasives that any of us can conceive of. We let Mother Nature take care of freezing things out and taking care of things. Even with this engineering, even with the potential construction and design of the solution, it still balances out so that we're not constantly appealing to the town or to the water department or to someone that, oh, if we only had another $80,000 this year and next year and the year after that, this puts all of that on the back burner. And I think it's definitely the best thing that they can do. And they have the ability to do it. Not always an option at every pond, every lake, but here at Forge Pond, it's definitely viable. It's being done, it's been done for what, over a decade now.
Yeah, and I see references to it having been done on and off as early as you know, early to mid 20th century, but you know, on and off, and not consistently. It's been consistently done for the last 12 years. Yeah.
So this is all with the approval of Abbott Mill owners?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
Just one more concerned party.
right, previously we worked with the owner that, you know, converted it all to apartments, and he sold it a couple years ago, and he was comfortable with us doing the work. The new owners would prefer that their people did the work, but they're very supportive. They're aware of what the lake means to the broader community, and so they're, I mean, they know what we're doing here and why, and that's fine. Once we start talking about actual construction, they'll probably pay a lot more attention, I suppose.
A couple things about the mill. First of all, I think it's fascinating to have that, you know, because at the time when the mill was functioning, the pond, the landscape was a working landscape. I mean, there was nothing arbitrary about it. It was, and that's really interesting to still have that piece. And then the other thing is, I thought your last presentation, when you were talking about lifting the stopwatch and stuff, I would pay money to be able to do that. You could do a fundraiser and get, you know, teenage boys, you know, to come in, and you could raise some money doing that, because that's every teenage young man, maybe women's dream, is to watch the water gushing, you know, through. And so
We may not want to publicize so much that these possibilities are there.
well, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Actually, when we take them out in the fall, they are pretty stuck.
How bad?
They don't, you know, we have these long poles that we reach in and pull them up with, and we tug and pull on those. We have to use leverage to
That's why you need paying people to help you.
better than the duck races, right?
All right.
I would like to move that we approve the application for funding for the assessment of options to improve the effectiveness of Forge Pond products.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? All right,
Thank you very
good
much.
for us. So you can let Westford know that we are approving it, we're
Yeah.
recommending it to town meeting and
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
who's.
Their schedule is, that applications are due, second week of January, and then they have interviews, through the middle of February. And then they put their heads together and see what they wanna do.
Yeah, they do a little differently than we do. Do you know when
Yeah.
your town meeting is? Is it before?
I don't know exactly. It's, they're always around
The same time, yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, thank you very much.
Right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Once again, thank you
Really
for all your
appreciate it.
work, all of it.
Thanks, yeah.
This is
Good job.
You're on.
Well, I just had budget discussion if necessary. I haven't heard anything new. I did hear rumblings that the select board is still trying to get us, some free cash, to try to get a 1%. Even though there's a pretty big gap in budget right now, I guess. But they're hoping to still be able to fund it, but there's a long way between now and town meeting, but I'll keep my ear to the ground for that one. Rob, did you have, you missed our public input. Did you have anything other than?
Do you want me,
Yeah, it's-
so just briefly, and I apologize if John stated this to you, I know over the last year or so, Clean Lakes has discussed, funding challenges, et cetera. But a positive thing, if you haven't heard, is that Park and Recreation, just went forward and approved for the first time Camp T, that is their big summer program, over $500,000 of revenues, and they just agreed to do a 1% contribution in the same way that 1 year ago or for this fiscal year, they took on a 1% with regard to the beach membership fees. So the dam is starting to break, so to speak, and it's great to have big users coming to the table, and just want to share that with you because I think in the past you had, commented in discussion with regard to diversification of revenue sources, and just want to share that with you. I think it's a positive step.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it sounds like Clean Lakes is still on the docket for a line item. I mean,
Yes,
again, a lot could happen between now and May, especially with this 2 million gap, but, I talked to a select board member not too long ago, said it was still in the process, so hopefully that goes through.
Yeah.
Which will help you very much. Any project, I haven't heard about much goings on about projects, Park and Rec or we've heard Clean Lakes. So I'm not really sure what we'll see. I mean, we had such a flood of stuff last year, but
the historical commission will probably have a small project, and that is to write a historical preservation restriction for the Tuttle House. Regardless of what happens to it, I think it should have a historical preservation restriction.
and I think with the cemetery, we're gonna try to, if the Fannons are still available, get another round of gravestone in while they're still active.
And then, what is the status of the historic documentation of the orchard?
That was already approved last.
I know it's already approved, but it hasn't
Oh,
been
so what
done.
the status?
Yeah.
Oh, so we developed macros forms for all 3 buildings. I think there's one form that still needs to be submitted, but we finalized it, so now there's all three buildings are covered in macros or will be shortly. We have preservation restrictions written for all 3 buildings. But we run into the same issue that I brought up with some other things, and that is the town cannot hold a preservation restriction on itself. The historical commission cannot hold a preservation restriction if the town, the select board, is managing, owning the orchard. We would have to either hire a nonprofit to hold that restriction. It's considered like a conflict of interest, one town belongs to another town. We'd have to hire a nonprofit, which we don't want to do because it costs like $50,000 per historic preservation restriction. We went through this with Robinson Road. So instead, what we've what we're pursuing is a memorandum of agreement, like a memorandum of understanding. We've written it up, it would be between the historical commission and the select board. I haven't approached the select board yet because we're just finishing up the language. I would run it by town council. And if the select board agrees, we would have a memorandum of understanding that the historical commission would review any changes to the buildings. And the reason I thought that was necessary is because we're talking long-term here. If the town owns this for 20 years, we want to make sure that nothing major is changed on the buildings. That's historic.
I missed the open house for the nursery that's there. Did anyone go to it? I've seen it, but, yeah, Rob, what did you think?
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Everybody that was, I'd say, when I was there were approximately 40 to 50 people, so well attended. And everybody was very, very smiling faces, really great expression of goodwill for Bransfield, and seemingly quite impressed with regard to his initial months of activity.
Is he gonna do retail there?
Pardon?
Is he gonna do retail there? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going
fine.
by the,
I'm far from an expert on this,
Okay.
but that's my understanding. And in fact, he needs to do it's a very minimal sort of direct sale to keep the APR valid. At the select board meeting recently, I think Matthew Nordhaus gave an update that they'd received a letter from the state in which the tone of the letter made Matthew realize that the state, my words, not Matthew's, he said it better. But it seemed that the state was more serious than the select board had understood with regard to the non-compliance that the orchard had fallen into and received notice on. So seemingly, select board's gone forward with a monitoring plan on the orchard. And so right now, I think everybody feels like the select board's threaded the needle on behalf of Littleton residents with regard to bringing Bransfield, finding him and feeling very good. Having said that, if you roll it back 15, 20 years, we were probably saying something similar. So it needs diligence and execution, but it seems to be good first steps.
great.
Okay. Future meetings, the next meeting would be January 21st, which would be the third Wednesday. On my way, it's okay. Does anyone have any final?
I mean, I guess I want to say that the housing trust will be back looking for its rental assistance
Oh,
funds at some point.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we haven't discussed it.
We will be here.
And in terms of the planning board, we opened hearings for the first phase of 550 King. And everyone here should be interested in that. They're very excited about going forward with quite a bit of retail, some apartments. But I pointed out because that will be a big boost to our tax base, which may make all of this easier in the future. So who knows, but that's the dream.
When do they expect the things would start being?
They keep on talking about first quarter, anyway, so we're going through the site plan review with first phase, which is primarily retail, which is really interesting because they were mainly interested in apartments. And they found, apparently, by marketing it around the country, a huge interest among national retailers to locating in our little town.
When you say national retailers, you mean chain stores?
Like, let's use an example of Talbot's or
Okay,
something
that
like
kind
that.
of thing.
Yeah, not big box stores, but small stores.
Radio Shack.
That's interesting.
Well,
What's that?
from the dead.
Oh, that's interesting because
And Taylor.
a lot of people were thinking, gee, they'll probably remain empty. These.
Who's gonna go in? No, they're not building, they're not telling us, but they're not building. They're building it for specific,
Ah,
I mean, that's your understanding, you know, they have these
Well,
organizations
they
and
have,
buildings.
I think they're talking to specific restaurants and a couple of specific, probably Talbots or somebody like that. There's a couple of roughly 10,000 square foot restaurants. And then there's some couple of 5,000 square foot spaces and a whole bunch of 1 and 2 and 3,000 foot spaces. So they're looking at a variety of things, but they, I guess they feel like they need anchors of some kind, but they're not really huge.
Anyway, it's, that scale of development will be a shock to the system, but it could boost the finances of the town.
I mean, a 10,000 foot restaurant, is that bigger than Tavern in the Square, smaller? Do you know?
I think it's bigger. I don't know.
Is that, I don't have
Yeah.
quite, I don't have a.
They're talking about some specific restaurant, 2 stories, open air, this, that. They have beautiful renderings if you go to the website. So, anyway.
Carol, a possible agenda item would be to hear from, Bartlett reminded me this, to hear from the housing trust on how the year's money was spent.
Yes, we do need, we will need that.
Your report.
The calendar year report. Yes, we are supposed to have that we learned that at our
And does that apply to other?
conservation, but I don't believe they've spent anything. I'll double check with Tim Pearson and the agent, but I don't think they've spent anything from their monies.
Because I keep on thinking of it as a slush fund, but that's not an appropriate.
No, but yeah,
Don't say that.
Fair.
yeah,
It's still there, except you,
Yeah.
turn.
yes, but anyway. All right, if nothing else,
I move that we conclude our meeting.
Second.
all in favor of adjourning at
Aye.
4?
Aye.
Aye, all right, thank you.